Have you ever wondered if your kitchen could use a cosmic upgrade, but you got lost in the galaxy of cabinet options? Don't worry. Fear not. You can join us today, and we are going to go through the universe of kitchen cabinets and talk about all the different parts and types and all of that.
Yeah, we're going to explore everything from sleek, modern, to traditional designs.
Yep, and whether you should go with custom to builder upgrades and all those different options and what choices you can make. So stick around right after this. We'll be right back to blast off into this universe of kitchen cabinets.
Yeah. Here we go.
All right, welcome back. So first off, we want to let you know, do us a favor, click like, subscribe, turn on that notification bell so you don't miss any of our content. And we do cut all of our stuff into shorts as well. So if you see this and you don't have time to watch the whole thing, you can always be notified of our shorts that we have coming out, which is kind of like that condensed version, like condensed soup. So definitely click like, subscribe, and turn on that notification bell, and that's how you will actually see every single one of our shorts as well.
And see all our shorts have a link to
the main video if it's something that you want to see in more depth. So absolutely. But today we're going to talk about kitchen cabinets and what you should expect when you're in the area of like Wisconsin and the Midwest in general, to be honest. But if you are just in an average Midwest market, this is kind of what you should be expecting. So first of all, the types and the styles. So what are some of the types and styles of cabinets? Well, first of all, you've got stock, which is like pre-made, which is similar to our kitchen.
Yeah, we've recently did our kitchen a couple of years ago.
Yeah, it's a couple of years ago.
And we use stock options, and they come unpainted, and we painted them.
Well, okay, we did not.
Okay.
Let me explain. I am married to a man who's very handy, and as long as his body holds up, he will continue. And even when his body isn't holding up, some days he still insists on doing stuff because he really likes to work with his hands. And so the option that we went with when it came time for ours was we ended up painting our uppers and staining our lowers for our kitchen cabinets, but we just got stock cabinetry. And then we did some customization ourselves to it, is what it really was. So it was custom, but not custom, because it was just really basic cabinets from Menards.
It was plain oak fronted cabinets that we then stained the bottoms as
they weren't even oak fronted, I don't think. I think they were might have been pine fronted.
They
were oak.
Yeah.
Okay. He probably knows. But they were not like a high grade oak or anything like that. They were not the kind of oak that you would really stain and bring out. Like the stain we used on the lowers was really, really dark. So we'll talk about that in a little bit here. But we did a stock pre-made. The other option you have is semi-custom, where they kind of mix and match, where they'll like maybe do some of it customized, like maybe one or two cabinets customized, but they're generally pulling from a stock size. And so they might customize the doors, but the sizes might be stock, but your doors might be able to be customized per cabinetry.
Which is what a lot of people do.
Yes, a lot of people do that when they go into a kitchen design center. They might take the stock cabinet, but then they will choose, I want that door with that stock cabinet. And the doors all come in the different, it's kind of like mix and match.
Yeah.
So it is kind of a semi-custom kind of a thing. Yeah. But then, of course, you have full-on custom cabinetry.
Full-on custom. You've got a carpenter that will design it for you as well.
Yeah, like they're like handcrafting the whole thing. Yeah, they're handcrafting everything. They're handcrafting every piece. They are making it maybe fit precisely in an irregular kitchen. If our house was in a nicer, more upscale area, that probably would have been what we would have had to go with, because just to kind of make sure it stayed in line with the neighborhood. Because our kitchen is such an odd shape.
Yeah.
Because of what we did, and because we did a semi-custom thing ourselves, and we made a cabinet that was completely something that was of my design, that was like an open pantry type cabinet at the end of it, that allowed us to use non-custom cabinets, but customize it, because we have a really odd shaped kitchen. That's the reality.
Indeed.
Yes. So sometimes when you have a really odd shaped kitchen, that's what you have to do.
Yeah. Yes, you do.
Okay. So those are the types. Now let's talk about the styles. The styles of cabinet are, you've got things like shaker. And shaker is, well, it's a specific style in some ways. It really is more about a design concept of very plain and basic.
Yeah, very clean lines.
No frills.
Basic,
no, you don't have like a bunch of, you don't have routers. Routers are not being used. It's like flat boards. It's not the same as modern, because obviously modern flat panel is different from shaker. Shaker does still have a little dimension to it. Does have like edging.
The beading around the edge.
Well, it's not beading though, because it's like flat. It's all flat, and there's no router involved.
It's a one around all the way around.
Or actually by two by like a half is more what it's like. But so it does have some dimension, shakers do, whereas the flat modern panel ones, kind of like IKEA cabinets and stuff, which we did look at that when we were going through the process. We considered that. And it wasn't a cost issue that we didn't go with it. It was more the style of our house. And I do think when you're looking at the style of your cabinet, you have to consider your house. You have to consider the style of your house. You really don't want to have, like our house was built in 1900. It has a much more classic feel to it when you walk in.
Yeah, and we wanted to match the colours of the lower cabinets to the new staircase and the pantry and everything like that, to tie it all in. Well, you couldn't do that with ones that are already finished.
Well, and if they're like modern, I mean, we could have done it on the uppers, I suppose, but then they wouldn't have matched the lowers, and that just wouldn't have looked right. And so, so the modern didn't really work well for our house, but it does work in some houses.
Yeah.
But I do think you have to be careful, because you can't really have a craftsman style home. Well, you can. And do an ultra modern kitchen, but it just kind of feels out of joint to do a.
It feels off.
It something feels off when you have these beautiful craftsman things, or these beautiful Victorian features in a home, or beautiful Edwardian features like medallions on the ceiling, and then you walk into the kitchen and it's like boom, IKEA showroom.
Yeah.
It just doesn't feel right. So you do have to match the style to it. So you've got the flat panel IKEA stuff, but I think they're beautiful. I think they're awesome, and I think some of the more modern homes, they look really, really cool.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, they do.
So, absolutely. But then, of course, you have the raised panel, which is a much more traditional. That's where you have the beaded, routed edges, and you can go from pretty simple of that to really elaborate.
Yeah.
Even like going like depth in or depth out, like things like that. I will tell you, women or men, whoever is in charge of cleaning the kitchen, the less routing that you have on your stuff, the easier it is to clean. So if you are really big into kitchen cooking and you're really going to do that, keep in mind the cleaning that goes behind that, because the more detail you have on your kitchen cabinetry, then that's more crevices for dirt and grease to get into, and it means you're going to be cleaning your cabinets much more frequently.
Yeah.
Because you have to in order to keep up with it. And we do have a little bit more beaded, and I think that is the one thing I would change if I had to, is that we have the more raised panel traditional style cabinets with a little bit of routing on the inside, and I honestly feel like I could have gone with shaker, and that might have been easier for cleaning. And we do cook a lot, and there's a lot of grease. Even though we have a vent hood, there's a lot of grease that flies around, and I'm constantly wiping down our upper cabinets that are white. The lower cabinets too, but they don't seem to show it as much, so it's not as bad.
No, they don't. They're the stained ones.
Yeah, the stained ones are stained dark, and so it doesn't show as much. But especially if you have light cabinetry, keep that in mind, because you're going to have a lot of crevices for dirt and stuff to get into, and it can be really a pain to keep up with.
The next one is the glass front.
Yes, of course you have glass front. Now, the problem with glass front for some people is that you can see everything, and everything inside your cabinet has to be like in perfect shape. Like even the interior of your cabinets has to be, and trust me, my interior,
chuck things away to hide them.
Which I do all the time. To me, that's the point of kitchen cabinets,
unless you
chuck it away.
I've seen people put like pieces of curtain on the inside.
Yeah, which if you're looking for like a gingham look or like a more homestead, but then honestly, don't even have glass at all, just put the gingham. And then you get that real homesteady look to it. But yeah, glass is nice. Now, of course, you can have the frosted glass, which means your stuff isn't on display as much. But also, you have to keep in mind, those are really going to be more practical just for upper cabinets, not lower. So then, because lower, if you have glass fronts on them, obviously somebody bumps into it with a knee or a foot, or anything can go wrong. Bang, you've shattered it. And especially if you have kids, that can be problematic as well. So. And obviously they're not. The glass is not like it's not like it's super fragile glass, but still.
A kid in a baby walker will smash right into
Oh yeah, absolutely. But even still, as kids get older, it's very easy to break the glass front. We actually just had a listing where the glass front was broken on a cabinet that was more of an upper. It was like a built-in, and yeah, that was like they were really not happy about that.
And that was an adult that done it.
Yes, it was an adult that did it, for sure. That was an adult, and it was unfortunate. All right, let's talk about like the colors and the materials that are involved. So first of all, the colors. Well, oh my goodness, that can be anything. Like colors can be anything. In our kitchen, we went with a two-tone. I know that when we were looking at the color of the year this year, we saw that what was the name of the color? I can't even remember. Rumors is what they called it. They called the color rumors, but it's like this really deep, rich burgundy color. And they had a kitchen with lower cabinets all in that burgundy color. And even you went, wow.
Yeah, it did look good.
Yeah, you were like, our kitchen. No, we're not changing our kitchen. We just did that. But you can do everything from wood tones.
Yes.
But honestly, right now, colors in cabinets is a very big on-trend thing. A navy on the bottom or navy both on top and bottom. If you are going to do dark colors like a green or a navy or like rumors, that color of the year this year for 2025, if you want to do one of those deep burgundies, you want to make sure your walls are very, very light.
Yes.
Otherwise, your whole room's going to be dark.
Contrast there.
Yeah, exactly. And I would definitely say go with something that's very organic looking if you can. You don't want to end up being that 1970s gold, as your cabinet color, because that might be just a little. But sometimes an island can be that pop of color.
Yeah.
So there's so many options. Of course, you then, even in the wood cabinetry, you have everything from the white oak to the maple to the there are people who have like the pine cabinets because they like that knotty pine cabinet look, which is what we had prior to this, was a knotty pine look.
Yeah.
I didn't think it was particularly suited to our house age, etc. But
it was very old.
It was more like 1970s knotty pine. It wasn't anything that was even close to updated. But all of that time. But yeah, so what are some of the materials? Well, you've got oak, maple, cherry, MDF, laminate, metal cabinetry.
Yeah.
There are metal cabinets, or at least the doors and the fronts are metal. Mm-hmm. My mom loves to have just like metal shelving as her cabinets. Like she doesn't even have a lot of kitchen cabinets really, because she uses.
She's only got about 2.
Yes, she really doesn't have a lot of kitchen cabinets, but that's because she has a very large pantry.
Yes.
She has a very large like bookshelf thing that is turned so nobody can see it when they walk in the kitchen. Mm-hmm. So my mom doesn't even really have cabinetry in her kitchen much.
It's just the 2 under the sink.
But her surface is all metal, and then she's got like metal and white and like it's like IKEA looking stuff in her house. But not really modern, just kind of. So you've got to also, you want to talk about the maintenance parts of it. I mean, what is the maintenance of wood? Well, you've got to possibly restain nicks and things like that. You've got to refinish them. You've got to keep them up and make sure that you're not getting, things that aren't getting damaged and all this stuff. Mm-hmm. With the light colored cabinets, like I already mentioned before, a lot more clean when you cook a lot. Because the grease and the fumes and the stuff shows up. Yep, absolutely. So, you have to keep in mind what kind of family you have, what do you do in your kitchen, and think about the maintenance of it.
Yeah.
I mean, that is one of the advantages of the flat fronts is they are easy to clean. Just a bit of dusting cleaner and you're polishing it up right away. So it does, like stuff like that ultra modern look does clean up really nice and really easy. Just a quick wipe. The other thing you have to look at as well with cabinets is on the style side is, do you want to have handles or not handles? Because some of them come with handles, some without. Yeah. You and I have a difference of opinion on this as well.
We do.
Because I actually don't want handles in our kitchen.
I do.
And we don't have handles yet. Maybe in the future on the upper cabinets. I really don't want them on the lower cabinets because as a woman who likes to wear clothes with pockets, do you know how many times I've snagged a pocket on the door handle of stuff? Oh my goodness, it's just so annoying. But You know, that's what you have to look at, though, because the hardware can really up the cost of a cabinet.
Yes, it can, and then there's so many different variations of.
Absolutely.
You know, when we was looking,
And I think that's one of the reasons. I think that's one of the reasons we have no handles on our cabinets. First of all, I like the look with no handles, and secondarily, that is part of the reason I have to clean more often, because obviously we're touching the actual cabinet a lot.
Yeah.
But honestly, we just couldn't decide on what we wanted for handles. There were things he liked, there were things I liked, and neither of them matched up. So, yeah. All right, so that is now we talked about the colors, we talked about the materials, we talked about the styles and the trends in styles. Now, however, which is the best way to go? Should we go with DIY or should we go with professional installation?
Well, a lot of that comes down to what your budget is.
Well, and your skill level.
Yes.
Because for some of us, our skill level, we've done this before, it's not a problem, but I'm really glad that I have him, because if I had done it all on my own, while I technically have the skills to put up kitchen cabinets, I do not have the patience for the level and the measuring and all of that you do.
Yeah.
Crazy man insisted on leveling our cabinets.
Of course.
I know. Insane, huh?
And there was a lot of them.
Yes, there was a lot. There is a lot of them for sure, because we ended up doing full-size cabinets, and then we added 2 toppers to
And of course, having a garage where we could actually spray the cabinets,
Yes.
or or stain them and lacquer them.
Yes.
Was a godsend.
We
Because
created a
to
table.
fill the garage. We couldn't put cars in the garage
For almost a
all
year.
For almost a year.
Yeah.
Because the cabinets, fair enough, they came made up,
Yes.
which was a godsend.
No assembly required.
Yeah. And so.
But I can remember, you had to do multiple layers of paint, and then multiple layers of stain, and then finishing the stain. And you had all those little tiny triangles that all the cabinets had to be propped up onto while you were doing it. Then you have to flip it over.
Triangles to
and then
hold them off the ground. So that way, it does allow you to stain all sides.
Yes.
And let them dry.
Yes.
Rather than just doing one side, letting that dry, then having to come back to it later once it's dried.
Yes.
So they are a godsend, the painter's triangles. They're like a little pyramid.
Yeah, it's like these little pyramids. They're really cute.
And so
we now have like 50 of them.
Yeah.
We now have like 50 of them roaming around our garage, which we don't need them anymore. But he doesn't like to get rid of anything.
If ever we have to repaint them.
Yeah, this is why we have 50 of them still roaming around our garage. But that's the DIY side. However, if you don't have the skill set to really have that precision of leveling your cabinets and that sort of thing, and the skill set of being able to hang them and being able to put things up, you definitely want to do a professional, because this is doing cabinetry. You have to make sure they're level. You have to make sure that you're putting the shims in the right places away from the walls and in the walls. Make sure they're level on all the way across, especially the lower cabinets when you're talking about having to level, because you're going to lay a countertop on top of that. And if the cabinets are not level underneath it, the countertop's not going to lay flat, and you're going to have things rolling off, and it would be a nightmare. So, thankfully, he has the patience for that, because I don't.
And the laser leveler, so I was able to, point it at the wall and my levels.
Yeah.
So that came in very handy.
So with DIY, if you already have a lot of the tools, great, but there are some definite tools you want to invest in if you want to do it yourself, and that would be, like you said, a laser leveler is a real godsend for something like that.
It's
not expensive.
I already had that. So.
Yeah, they're not ridiculously expensive though. And when you're paying a professional to do your cabinetry, you're paying a lot more, so you can afford some of those tools if you want them.
Yeah.
And if this is something somebody would want to do in the future, then especially if somebody's wanting to get into the idea of flipping or renovating houses. Like, I grew up with a family, not only did my parents flip houses, which is why I got into real estate, but I actually, when I was very young, my best friend's family, Stacy's family, I don't know if I ever told you this, he would move the family into a house, they would renovate it, then a couple of years later they'd sell it and they'd move into another house and he would renovate it. It was like a family flip in a way, in that they were constantly living in a semi-construction zone, but it was part of how he built their wealth very quickly because he did most of the work himself. He was very handy. So, so that happened a lot, and I don't know if that continued. I only knew them till I was like 10. I don't know if that continued for years and years, but I know they lived in at least 3 or 4 houses.
The only problem with doing DIY is the time it takes, because invariably life in your normal job gets busy when you have projects to do. And so you can't always spend the time, you know, which is why it took us so long, because we moved a lot of stuff as well. We boarded up windows, we put a new window in.
We didn't
redone all
we
the
didn't add a window.
Wall,
Hold on. You keep saying we put a new window in, and I think you need to qualify that, because we didn't put a new window in. We replaced an old window, but we made it smaller because it was actually too big. It had encroached on the roof the way they had it before, because they had built an extension onto the house without considering that window. So we changed the size of that window. We had to reframe the whole thing, and we blocked off a window that was completely pointless because it looked at a neighbor. But when we blocked off that window, it allowed us to put more cabinets in, which was, to be honest, best choice we ever made.
And then we moved our sink over and stuff like that.
Well, we just moved it
over to do all that, because previously it had been positioned under the window. For, you know,
which obviously that's more traditional.
We was able to then move it right to one end. And that gave us a really long countertop.
Which for people like us who like to bake and cook, that's really nice, because then you have one big expanse. So for those of you women who like to do Christmas cookies, you know how invaluable it is to have one big long section of countertop to lay them out after they're done. So absolutely. And the other thing we did was we added some cabinetry in a way, in that we didn't have a proper cabinet next to our stove. And so, because we didn't have one next to our stove, we did add one next to our stove, both below and above, which also gave us countertop next to our stove, which was so nice. So there was a lot that was missing from our kitchen that we got to add when we did this kitchen renovation. And because we were DIYing it, we could kind of make these decisions on the fly as we needed to. And that's the other thing, is that if you're going to use a professional, you got to have your plan in place up front, or allow them to plan it all out and make sure you really like how it's going to be, because once they start,
you make after you've designed it all cost money.
Absolutely, because just like in a new construction house, it's a similar thing in that if they have to reorder or they have to send stuff back, that's going to cost you extra money. So make sure if you're using a professional, which I'm not saying people shouldn't do, because if people have to move plumbing, if you have to move plumbing, you know, we didn't really move plumbing. Our plumbing just shifted to the side. We didn't have to add anything. We just actually had to shorten the drain. But if you don't know how to do that, and you're going to need someone to do that as part of your renovation, you want to make sure you have that right. Definitely. So make sure your plan, if you're going to use a professional, make sure you have your plan in place and you know exactly what you're going to do. Now, if you're just going to replace what you already have and you're not changing anything, I could see how a professional could be really good, because here's the thing. They come in, they take all the measurements, they do all the ordering, bing, bang, boom. Couple of days, they're tearing it out, like less than a week for most professionals to come in, tear it all out, put in all the new, and literally a lot of people will go away on their vacation, turn over their house to their contractor, and come back from vacation to a brand new kitchen, which can be pretty awesome. Definitely see the appeal of that.
I see the appeal of that as well.
At the time, it was good for us, and we feel it was definitely the best choice for us to DIY. But I'm not going to tell you, there's not a big appeal to having somebody else doing it all for you, for sure.
There were times late at night when I was out there staining cabinets that I thought, why couldn't we have paid someone to do it?
So let's talk about the cost. All right, so the cost for stock cabinets is usually about $100 to $300 per linear foot. Linear means just this way, just like the front of the cabinet. So it's not square foot, it's not how tall or this. However, the $100 to $300 does depend on how tall they are, because this is what I found, and we made a choice when we were doing ours. So we have very tall ceilings in our kitchen, and a stock cabinet is not very tall, or the tallest ones that are very stock, inexpensive cabinets are not very tall. So we ended up putting a second cabinet above all of them, because it was actually cheaper than buying the taller stretch cabinets.
Yeah.
The taller stretch cabinets were more than double the cost. If I bought a cabinet that was height that would go from where we wanted all the way up to the ceiling like we wanted to fill all that space and give us a lot more storage, that would have cost us over double for that one. Whereas the way we went, it actually ended up costing us like time and a half to get the extra cabinets, because the extra cabinets we got were shorter.
They're the ones you typically see over a fridge.
Right.
The long, narrow ones.
Yep.
And so we put quite a few of those right way across the top.
Yeah, well, we put double stack of those. So we have 1, 2, 3 sets across the kitchen, and they're stacked double. So we have 6 of those right across the top of our kitchen cabinets on one side.
Yeah.
But man, do we get a lot of storage out of that.
Well, yeah, and you can put stuff in there that you don't use that often.
Exactly.
Maybe you only get up for Christmas or something like that. So it's got a place, and it's out of the way.
Yep, absolutely. And we just bought a small step stool that we can easily pop out and get up there and get what we need.
You can't actually reach Mossy.
I can't reach those cabinets at all. So you can reach them. You can reach the one, the lower layer, just to open them, but you can't see even when you're just opening them. So but that's what we ended up doing with our not custom stock cabinets. And we probably paid, I would say we paid about probably about $150 per linear foot for our cabinets. We were at the lower end of that. Now, I would say it was about $100 per linear foot. Actually.
Yeah, and then on top of that, obviously, we've got the stain and the...
Correct, the stain and the paint and all of those things.
Yeah,
exactly.
Sandpaper
But I will say the semi-custom normally runs somewhere from $150 to $700, and that again depends on how much customization you do.
Yeah.
But custom cabinets start at about $500 per linear foot and go up to $1,200. And again, that depends on how much customization. It also generally has to do with what type of wood you're choosing to, or what materials you're choosing.
Different materials, different cost.
Different materials, different cost. Now, DIY can save you about 50% on labor, but professional installation ranges anywhere from $50 to $300 per linear foot. I really think that you probably should be looking at the $150 to $200 minimum price for installation for a professional, because the professionals, and I hate to say this, but it's the truth, you get what you pay for.
Mm-hmm.
And when you're paying $50 per linear foot for a kitchen cabinet installer,
you're probably getting someone that doesn't know what they're doing.
They're going to do cheap and they're going to do quick, but they're not going to do good. And I'm the kind of type A person where if I'm looking at them and they're not lined up or they're not like I'm really glad I'm married to him on this, because it would have bugged me. I wouldn't have had the patience to do it, but it would have bugged me afterwards. And it would bug him too, which is why he would. But that's why he has the patience to do it.
I'm a perfectionist on that. I like to have it all lined up and square.
Yep.
So.
And definitely consider, when you're looking at your choices, consider what kind of moisture conditions it is, because Wisconsin is a very moist, but then in the winter, it has a tendency to get very dry. So keep that in mind when you're picking your materials, that you may, if you go with like a bare wood look or a very light coat look, you may have to do some moisturizing of those kitchen cabinets, because some of the more bare wood looks, which are very nice and beautiful organic, they do require oiling on a regular basis, especially in the winter time.
They pick up stains and everything.
Yeah, but also it's partly because of the fact that there's so low moisture. If the wood dries too much, it will actually start to crack, even if it's a custom cabinet. So you definitely want to make sure that you're taking those factors into account. So, I think we've talked about a lot of things in regards to kitchen cabinets. There are a lot of choices. The key is, don't get overwhelmed by the choices. Sit down and pick out your favorite style. Then look at your budget and say, okay, am I going to do custom or not? And if you need some help with design,
do I have the skills or not?
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, I have some design skills. I mean, I'm currently working on helping design some condos that we're going to be working on hopefully in the next year or two here. So I'm working on designing stuff. But if you don't have a design, maybe you have a friend who's kind of, good at design. If you have somebody who's good at drawing, talk to them, because a lot of people who are good at just like kind of drawing and looking at spatial awareness are very good at doing things like that kind of design, and it can be kind of fun.
Yeah.
It can be a creative outlet. If you're not a creative outlet person, let them help you. Let them sit down and help you, because honestly, it's a lot of fun. And besides, you can spend some time with your friend then.
And if you're going to go to one of these like DIY places, a lot of them have kitchen designers there that can help you.
Absolutely.
So just take your measurements, or they'll come and measure it for you.
Yep.
And then you can work out a plan.
Yep. And remember that choosing your cabinets in Wisconsin is just like picking the right cheese for your burger. It can make or break that burger. It can make or break the wheel. So, you know what? Choose wisely, and maybe your kitchen will be as legendary as the Green Bay Packers.
Wow.
Join us again next time, guys. Next week, we are actually going to be putting up some data from 2025 for real estate stuff so that you can see what the year in housing looked like last year. So if that's something you're interested in, absolutely click that subscribe button, because we're going to have that next week. We don't do that all the time, but it's 2025 now, and we're going to look back at 2024 and see what was the housing market like in 2024. What actually happened, and how does that compare to other years and other times. So join in again next week, and hopefully we'll see you again later. Bye for now.
Bye.